are now tuned in to my main man Dubs. If you want that garbage, go somewhere else. If you want that music that matters, he came to the right spot. Hey Dub, talk to him.
This is not for the weak-hearted. Ever since the beat started, the flow switched up from...
What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis, they asked him in a recent interview, what's his take on Andy Ruiz and his weight loss. Now, Lennox Lewis, he said that Andy Ruiz losing weight, it can be better because he's more fit, okay? And when you're more fit, you can take punches better. You don't decline as fast taking the punches, being in shape versus not being in shape, okay? That he did say. However, he did say that Andy Ruiz punches harder than a motherfucker. So he would be faster because he's more fit. And since he's more fit and he's more faster, the punches should land better. However, let me counterpunch Lennox Lewis right there. Okay. Lennox Lewis has went on record already saying the reason for Andy Ruiz's harder punches is because of his weight. Now he's saying it's better, or it could be better. Let me be fair. If he loses the weight. Now, well, that he's lost the weight rather, or some weight. Because, you know, we haven't measured him to know how much he is right now. Because that's been a couple weeks since I've done an interview or a video about Andy Ruiz's weight. But he says, well, he'll be more fit. He should be more faster, but he did quote Freddie Roach, that Freddie Roach worked with him, you know, at first hand, and he's seen Andy and how he is best suited. I mean, he's best suited being bigger, being heavier. So he did reference that, which was good, because he honestly said, well, I'm not really sure if he will be better, but he can punch harder, because he did see him when he fought Dimitrico, I think his name is. And he said he heard those punches land. But because he heard those punches land like that, he gave credit to the weight. So if he loses the weight or tampers with the weight, according to Freddie Roach, it is not as good because he's not at his best for punching. So that's one of those things we have to really figure out. Now, Lennox Lewis, I will say this, it was a very informative video. Maybe I should break this down into two separate videos, but I'm going to try to get it all in this one. Lennox Lewis said that Anthony Joshua, his thing is he can improve his craft if he has a chance of beating Andy Ruiz. And he thinks that he's young enough at this age to learn, okay? And he also advised Anthony Joshua to fight out of the UK, because he said, like himself, he went to America, okay? He went to places where they booed him. Well, they booed him coming in, but then they cheered him coming out. So that's something that he learned, but it made him mentally stronger going into a fight, getting booed like that, as opposed to Joshua, where he's in the UK and he already had that massive fan base because the UK fans were in love with him. So all he was accustomed to is cheers, right, and praise. Where, according to Lennox Lewis, he said when Anthony Joshua came to the States, he said he heard boos. And Lennox Lewis feels that affected him mentally going into that fight, because he did hear boos and he wasn't accustomed to hearing boos. He wasn't accustomed to hearing that adversity of people booing him, negative people, right? So that's why he said it's better for him to fight in other places. And he said that Eddie Hearn is a guy, which is a promoter that wants all the money possible. And Lennox Lewis feels that now, mind you, now Lennox Lewis feels that the fight should have been in the UK because it should have been in a place that best benefited Anthony Joshua. He should have been in his comfort zone. Well, let me counterpunch that. Okay. First of all, Lennox Lewis did not say that at first. Lennox Lewis did say he wanted it in Mexico, where it was better for Ruiz. Okay. So I don't know why he changed his mind now. Whatever reason, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But he also said that what benefits the fighter, and he can understand if Anthony Joshua was fighting someone in Saudi Arabia that wasn't so much of a task at hand, which is Andy Ruiz, that would be okay. But not Andy Ruiz, because Ruiz is the first one that beat him, and he wouldn't have had it in Saudi Arabia. But of course, the money's there. The Saudi Arabians wanted it there. They put the money up for the fight, so therefore the fight is happening in Saudi Arabia. Okay. Well, Lennox Lewis, he said that Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn should work together, and he said he knows some promoters and fighters that actually work together, which I will vouch for that, because if Eddie Hearn, that's where that fight wanted to be hosted at because of the money. We know that. That's the reasoning for that. Okay. But where did Anthony Joshua originally want the rematch? He wanted it back at Madison Square Garden. Eddie Hearn wanted it in the UK. Lennox Lewis initially said he would prefer it in Mexico. So, now he's saying, I guess, to attack Eddie Hearn or throw him under the bus slightly. Don't run over his whole body, just run over his legs, right, with the bus. That Eddie Hearn was just thinking about the money. Therefore, he wanted the fight in Saudi Arabia instead of a place that would be better for Anthony Joshua mentally. Okay, so that's going back to that mentality and that strong suit. So I know I'm skipping over this. I'm going to leave the link in the description. And he also addressed AJ in, of course, the remarks and the beef that these guys had together. And these guys were like, he was saying, well, I have no beef with him. There's been other guys that contacted me, and Joshua was not one of those guys. Okay. So Joshua could have called him if he wanted to. He said Joshua never called him. As far as other fighters calling him, he said, and this is his metaphor, I don't go. The mountain doesn't go to the people come to the mountain. In other words, if he wanted something, or he wanted to know something or learn something, he would. And he also said and stated that he thinks it's more of Joshua's team listening to certain people instead of him. Well, let me counterpunch you on that. There's some truth to that, I'm pretty sure. But Lennox Lewis, he has to be accountable for the things that he said. Okay, and the things that he said were, hey, I think he should fight in the USA. I think he's worried about the money. And it was about the negotiations between him and Deontay Wilder. And he did mention Deontay Wilder, that Deontay Wilder was receptive of the things that was taught to him. Okay, so it was one of those situations where he felt that Deontay Wilder, in contrast, okay, he was more receptive and he was willing to learn, versus a person that never called it, which was Anthony Joshua. That's what I extracted from the interview, but it was very informative, despite you know, certain things here and there. But this was actually a video that you could have learned. You could have learned a lot from, and I want you guys to check it out. You guys tell me what you think about Lennox Lewis's comments. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.